Welcome to the DFO Rundown podcast with Frank Seravalli and Jason Gregor on dailyfaceoff.com. Delivered by DoorDash.
Welcome to episode 117 of the DFO Rundown. I'm Jason Gregor, alongside Frank Seravalli, and another crazy weekend in the National Hockey League as we get closer to the playoffs. We know who's in the East, and it's down for me, Frank. We're down to 9 teams. There's a few teams battling for playoff spots. That's it. 5 teams, I guess, who still could fall out of the playoff spot or get in Edmonton, LA, Nashville, Dallas, and Las Vegas. And Edmonton and LA seem not pretty, but fairly comfortable to get in the Pacific. So it'll be fun, Frank. And I want to start with that playoff race. And your thoughts. The Vegas Golden Knights are 5-0 since in their last 5 games since March 23rd. They've gained 0 points on Edmonton and only 2 points on LA. It's pretty tough to gain ground.
It's the story of this league. It's the story of this league basically from November on. If you don't have a good October, you don't have a good November, you're in big trouble because it's so hard to make up ground. And, just go back and do the math on how good the Vancouver Canucks have been since Bruce Boudreau took over. It's amazing that they were even in a playoff conversation at any point. But you see now how the math catches up to them and how far back they are. Vegas, they had so much ground to make up with 25 games left that they've put themselves in a spot where, yes, they can go on a 5-0 run and not make up ground. That's how it works. It's another reason why I think we need the 3-2-1-0 point system.
Now we can get into that, actually. Let's go to your city first. Where do you come out on Keith Yandle?
I see it from both sides. I really do. And I know that's a Pollyannish answer, but the truth is, if we're having an honest conversation, Keith Yandle probably should have been a healthy scratch long before he broke Doug Jarvis's record. He had a couple games in, November, December, where he wasn't just out on the ice for 4 goals. He was directly responsible for 4 goals in a single game. And the Flyers played along and played nice. And, he got past Doug Jarvis's record. They had a huge celebration. They really did it right in terms of the ceremony. And then you get to this spot now where you've got 12 games left in the season and he's at 989 games. And people are saying, well, your team stinks. You're out of the playoff race. These games don't mean anything. Why are you in a spot where you're dressing Nick Seeler, for instance, over Keith Yandle? And I get that argument. I do. But it's also not the Flyers' job to carry 13 years worth of baggage for a player that's only in his first season with the team and likely his last. Like, they allowed him sort of artificially in some ways to break this record. Do we get a little worked up or overworked up at the numerology of it, of 1,000 instead of 989? That's kind of what I kept asking myself is, are we making too big a deal of this? And I understand what's the harm in just letting him get to 1,000, but it doesn't make what he did any less impressive.
100%. Here's where I come out at it, Frank. In game 318 or 627 or 840, you're in the lineup based on merit. You're not in the lineup then because you're chasing a number and they're like, well, geez, we got to get this guy to game 700 or we got to get him to game 800. That's irrelevant to the conversation. So it should be irrelevant once you're chasing another number. And when you look at Keith Yandle, and you brought up the numbers, Frank, you look at his 5-on-5 play. He's an offensive defenseman. He doesn't have a goal 5-on-5. He only has 5 points. Nick Seeler actually has 1 goal 5-on-5 in fewer games and fewer minutes. But then you look at goals for, goals against, 5-on-5. Keith Yandle is 20 goals for, 41 goals against. He's got a 32.7 goal for percentage. Now look at the other regular defensemen. Sanheim's 52%, Braun's 48%, Ristolainen's 47%, Provorov's 46%, Nick Seeler's 43%. And then way down is 32 for Keith Yandle. So I agree with you 100%. They did
by almost
him,
every objective measure, he's had an awful season.
Yeah, they did him a favor by letting him set the record. And when people say, well, it's 1,000 games, let's be honest here. In 3 seasons, when people remember Keith Yandle, they're going to remember him for being a dynamic offensive player. Whether he played 1,000 consecutive games or 989 consecutive games really isn't going to change anything, other than I think some people get caught up in the emotion of it rather than should he be in the lineup based on merit alone? Because that's what you're supposed to be.
They already did him the favor.
Yeah, exactly.
At 938 or whatever, to your point, he should have come out of the lineup.
Yeah. And I think that here's the thing. So let's say he gets to 1,000 games. The way Phil Kessel's going, Phil Kessel's breaking the record next year because I think Keith Yandle is going to be in a challenge to get a contract next season based on merit and how he played this year.
I was going to say at the end, none of this is really going to matter because Phil Kessel's going to be the record holder, and it's going to be Yandle who held it for a 25 game stretch.
Yeah. And like and you know what? I want to say this. I want to applaud Keith Yandle. I saw his press conference. I get that it's challenging. Every player wants. I co-host my regular show with Jason Strudwick, and he played almost 700 NHL games. He joked that he was a healthy scratch for about 400 of them, or 400 plus games. Right? It's difficult to sit in the press box and have a positive mindset. And I understand why Hayes comes out and says, "Hey, I don't agree with it." They're really good friends. Like you stand up for your teammates. I understand all of that, but at the end of it, I don't really think all the negativity, the Flyers, this shows no one's going to want to sign there. I'm like, what? He got the contract on first year in the organization, wasn't playing very well, and they stuck with him so he could break the record. I would say that's a pretty good organizational move.
Yeah. Like I said, I see it from both sides because I get how popular of a player he is in that dressing room too. So it is a little different in that sense. But they don't owe him anything. They gave him what they thought he deserved in the sense that it was, he probably could have come out at 967 games or whatever the number is. He should have come out 925. It just so happens that this is the time that they've made the call. The only thing that you can quibble with, I think, even if you can objectively say that Nick Seeler has had a better season, I mean, Nick Seeler is a 28, 29-year-old journeyman. Like, yeah. He, in the pecking order of like, and then we're talking like, does it really matter? Like, does it really matter who you're playing in the last 12 games? I know that it should be by merit, but this coach isn't even going to be here next season.
Yeah.
What kind of message is he trying to? So, you know what I'm saying? I see it from both sides. Like, I get, should they have just let him get to 1,000? I don't know. But I think the biggest thing is the reaction league wide is overblown. Like I saw so many things on my Twitter feed from people in Philly saying, I will never spend another $1 with the Flyers again as a fan. And I'm like, really? Like this is what sends you over the edge.
Yeah, that seems, I think that's an emotional tweet based on what a disappointing season it's been for the Flyers. And I appreciated what Kevin Hayes said. He goes, hey, we put ourselves in this situation, right? If, and Yandle's part of that, but I don't want to discount what he did because 989 games for a defenseman is amazing to do. And that's what he'll be remembered for. People aren't going to forget it. He's going to have the record for defenseman. Now, and who knows, maybe Phil does get injured. There's always a chance, so he still might hold the record. We'll see. And so we go from Phil Kessel's streak to Phil Kessel's team and Jay Beagle, who hasn't had a fight since 2013. And, he pumped Troy Terry in a tilt late in that blowout game. I honestly think people were more upset about what Tyson Nash said rather than the actual altercation. Because if you look at it on the ice, when Zegras gives a little bit of a poke, not a big deal. So Beagle gives him a cross check. I really don't think it had anything to do with him scoring the goal earlier. I think it was more so that he's poking the goalie in a 5-0 game. So he gets a cross check. And then Troy Terry does what you do. You come in, you stand up for a teammate, and Jay Beagle gets the best of him. Right? Jay Beagle's not a big fighter, Frank. Like, I think it's 9 career fights, but he hasn't had one since 2013. But Troy Terry, if you jump in a fray, you have to be expecting that outcome, that a guy might want to drop the gloves. Where do you come out?
It's not really related at all to the incident, that it has everything to do with what Tyson Nash said on the Arizona broadcast.
Yeah.
Like, we don't probably ever, like, that incident probably happens once a night in the NHL, close to it. I mean, maybe someone isn't bloodied and heading off the ice, but there's that type of scrum, that type of reaction, almost like literally if there's 10 games a night, in one of those games that happens, right?
Yeah.
It's what was said on the broadcast that if you come in and try and quote skill it up, like, isn't that actually what we're trying to do, is skill it up? Like, it's not the Anaheim Ducks' fault, as they're up 5-0, that the Coyotes have no skill.
Oh yeah. And I think, I don't believe that Jay Beagle in that moment is at all worried about the lacrosse goal from Zegras.
But that's what I'm saying is, his actions are being painted by what Tyson Nash said.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
I don't think there's any part of Jay Beagle that was thinking, who, by the way, like, everyone seems to love Jay Beagle. Like, I don't think any part of it is him thinking, oh, this guy scored a lacrosse goal on our team, let's cross-check him in the face and try and poke his eye out.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all. I just think it's the commentary that drove me crazy, not the actual incident. And not to say that the incident should be widely accepted. Like, again, that's a cross-check and a guy's getting punched in the face. What he did wasn't necessarily egregious either. Like, poking the goalie before the whistle, like, it's a pretty standard play. If the whistle hasn't blown, you go to the whistle. You're taught that since you're 6 years old.
Yeah, the play on the ice, I think, was bad. And honestly, Nash as a broadcaster, you're allowed to disagree with someone as opinion on one thing. What he said, to me, what he said reminded me of how he played. Right? He would do anything to infuriate people, and that's what he did on the broadcast.
It's embarrassing. It just is. I'm sorry. Like, that, if that's all you have in your repertoire, if that's the only well you can go to, it's no good. That's not what the game is aspiring to be. It's not what it should be. It shouldn't be, if you're skilled or if it's 5-0 and you've played a good game, that you deserve to get cross-checked in the face and punched in the face.
Yeah, because I really don't think that's how the game is. There's lots of blowouts and nothing occurs all the time.
But that's the point, is why is he saying it? Why are you thinking it? It's almost like he was twisted that they were getting embarrassed. It was like he reverted to former player mode of, oh, this game's 5-0, it's out of hand. And these young guys, it was even the way he explained it. Like, oh, these young guys that aren't tough come in here and are out skilling us. You want to skill it up, we're going to goon it up. Like, it's just like, why? And then why essentially double down on what you said? I saw he did a podcast with Craig Morgan, and basically he started backtracking for 3 minutes and then went back to saying the same thing that he thought from the beginning. I don't know. I don't have any room for it in today's game. Just because you're skilled doesn't mean you should get punched in the face.
Oh, yeah. And I would agree wholeheartedly. And I think we have to separate the two, because I don't think that's what Jay Beagle thought. I don't think that's what his actions were based on. So I think people felt like, well, Nash said it, so that must be what Beagle was thinking. And I don't agree with that at all.
No, that's a really, really good point. Separating the two. Like I said, incident, my issue is more with what was said.
Yeah. Now, one thing I don't have issue with, speaking of skilling it up, Frank, guys who score goals and guys who collect points. It's hard to do both. So I have some numbers for you, and there's an article coming out today at Daily Faceoff that will outline this so people can follow along a little bit better. 100-point seasons in the history of the game. 111 players have scored 100 points. It's happened 285 times. 50 goals. Austin Matthews became the 93rd player to score 50 in a season. It's been done 198 times. 50 goals and 100 points in a season. There's 55 players to have done it. It's happened 118 times. So clearly 50 and 100 is much more rare. But then to do it twice in a career, Leon Draisaitl accomplished that last night. He's got 50 goals, got 101 points now. And he's one of only 24 players who have done it twice, Frank. There's 61 guys who have scored 100 100 points twice, and there's 47, excuse me, who have done 100 goals 2 times or more. And so when I look at Leon Draisaitl, and he's in a rarefied air, Frank, when it comes to the 50-100. And, he's won a Hart. He's won an Art Ross. He's won a Ted Lindsay. I still think that Leon Draisaitl, when people are talking about, great players, best score in the game, like I read an article the other day that, Austin Matthews could have scored 53 times if it wasn't for COVID. And outside of Ovechkin, no one does that. And I'm like, well, Draisaitl has done it twice. And he also would have done it a third time if it wasn't for COVID. Like, he seems to get overlooked. He's kind of like if Jenny Malkin was in his prime in Pittsburgh.
I think back to the Oilers' first playoff run in 2017, was it?
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing the panel with Craig Button on TSN, and that's the exact comparison he made. Was Leon Draisaitl is the Evgeny Malkin to Sidney Crosby. That's really, and it was an exact comparison then. It's maybe even more apropos now because you think about the Hart Trophy race and no one really knows what to do with Leon Draisaitl. How do you handle it? Why is it that Leon Draisaitl and McDavid almost cancel each other out? Like both of their campaigns are weakened by the other, right?
Yeah.
At least theoretically. Yet no one thinks the same way about Austin Matthews and his candidacy, even though Mitch Marner is in the top 5 in the league in points. Why is that the case?
I'm guessing because McDavid and Draisaitl have already won. And I'm sorry. I think as a voter, it's very lazy to say, well, the other guy's won, so I don't want to pick him. I really like, to me, that I voted Patrice Bergeron. Like, if that's the case, why is he winning the Selke all the time? Right? Like, you're supposed to pick who's the best, not who you're tired of.
I think Bergeron has actually lost Selkes in recent years because people are tired of seeing him win. I think that is fact. He hasn't won a Selke since 2017. Think about that.
Yeah.
He won so many in a row that people were like, we're good. Let's change it up.
Yeah. And speaking of Selke, it's like when people in Toronto were saying Austin Matthews should be up for the Selke. Well, Austin Matthews been on the ice for 56 goals against 5-on-5. Draisaitl's been on for 50. But they say that Draisaitl doesn't have good defense. Like, it's mind-blowing to me. Like, Leon Draisaitl, how many top 10 scores are used on your 5-on-3 penalty kill, are used on your penalty kill regularly? Or like the thing that's unique about Draisaitl, Frank, is if he's not the best backhand passer in the NHL, he's definitely top 2 or 3. I don't think there's any debate on that, right? He's an elite passer, and he's become one of the elite scorers. Like, Austin Matthews has a better snapshot, no question. Like, his release is fantastic. But you look at Draisaitl, Draisaitl's probably more accurate with his one-timer and scores on it more, right? It's like, he's not Ovechkin, because very few people are Ovechkin. Let's be real here. But I find it interesting how Draisaitl gets overlooked. And when I crunched those numbers and, I dug deep into it, and it took me a long time, but only 24 guys, and Draisaitl, there's a realistic chance he could do it again, Frank. Well, if he does it again, you guarantee rubber stamp his ticket to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Because
I think you already have.
Yeah, and you're probably right. But here's the numbers, Frank, for the Maurice Richard Trophy, which is fantastic. Aptly named, the first guy ever to score 50, Maurice Richard, 50 and 50, back in 1945. In the last 12 games, Draisaitl has a 12-game point streak. He has 12 goals, 22 points. Austin Matthews, now his technically isn't a 12-game point streak because he got suspended, but he's on a personal 12-game point streak. He has 14 goals, 20 assists. And then there's Connor McDavid, is on a 13-game point streak, and he has 11 goals and 26 points. Right? Like, McDavid has an outside chance, because he's on such a hot streak, to maybe join the 50-100 club, as does Matthews, who's might be more realistic because he needs, what does he need? 12 points to get there. Like, you could see 3 guys in one season join the 50-100 club, which is remarkable.
Crazy. By the way, Matthews and the Hart candidacy, what were we talking? Selke?
Well, somebody had mentioned Selke earlier.
He doesn't kill penalties at all.
Well, that's what I said.
You can't
Plus, he's been on the ice. Like, look at his goals against 5-on-5 when you're on the ice. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
oh yeah, I'm sorry.
And I don't want to
win
blame
the Selke without killing penalties.
Yeah. And by the way, this isn't an attack on Matthews. I don't get Austin Matthews is an unreal player.
I don't care what your last name is or what team you play for. If you don't kill penalties, you should be disqualified from winning the Selke.
100%. I would agree. Yeah. But so where do you come out on, like, right now, the Rocket Richard? I'd still probably say I give Mike Matthews the edge because he's leading and he has a few extra games to play. Right.
It's not even just the games to play. It's more the consistency. It's the goals per game. He's at 0.8. Draisaitl's at 0.72. He also has the ability to, not that Draisaitl doesn't, because he's racked up a ton of multi-goal games. It's just that Matthews scores in such bunches. He could score 14 and 10. He could score, 12 and 6. Like he just has that, sort of unique ability that I would still put my money on Matthews.
And where do you come out just on 50 goals? Whereas, like, that seems to be like the benchmark, really. Like, you look Crosby, Jagger, Lemieux, Gretzky, Messier, go down the list of great forwards to score 50 goals. Is it something that does it matter at all if McDavid never has a 50 goal season? Because I think for him, Frank, it would matter because that is one of the benchmarks of elite in the National Hockey League, right? And the only kind of dominant generational player who didn't score 50, well, I guess Gordie Howe, if you go back, but that had to do with games played more than anything else, if you look at today's player. But also Eric Lindros. And, that probably had more to do with injuries than anything else because his career high was 47. But healthy guys, and now in an 80-game season, I think McDavid needs to score 50 in his career for him. I think he wants to. Crosby did it once, right? Where do you
go
come out
back
on
to
50?
his third season or whatever it was when he won the Ted Lindsay for the second time. And, I remember having a conversation with him. Hey, what are your plans for the summer? What are your plans for the offseason? He said, I really want to be a better goal scorer. I want to work on scoring more goals. And he's done it, but his numbers really haven't transcended that. And part of that is because there have been shortened seasons, right? Like the COVID shortened season 2 years ago, then the 56 game season, now followed by this year. He's on track for 45, I think, maybe 46 he can hit. But I don't know if it'll change the way we view him, but I think you're right in saying that it's important to him. It's sort of a threshold number, a rare club to join, especially in the last decade in the NHL. How many guys have hit 50? 3? Matthews makes 4, I think.
Oh, no, in the last decade, it's 3. Matthews is the third.
Stamkos, Ovechkin.
No, Stamkos, technically, Frank, that's 11 years ago. That's how time flies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he had what, 62?
Yeah, 60, yeah.
The other stat that wows me about 50 goals is that Matthews is the first American-born player since 1998 to hit 50. Yeah. That's a long time. There's a lot of American-born NHL players that haven't been able to hit 50.
Well, you look at the conversation, and obviously it's a long ways away because you got to wait till the career's over. But, Mike Modano, I think, Frank, and maybe you'd know better being an American, but, Mike Modano, many people consider him maybe the greatest American player, right? But, there's defenseman Chris Chelios, of course, had Brett Hall as a shooter. But then you got Patrick Kane, and you look at his career, and you look at Austin Matthews. And Matthews is the better goal scorer, no question. But like Patrick Kane, he's had multiple 100-point seasons. He won the Hart. He didn't win the Hart. He won the Art Ross, or did he win the Hart? I can't remember. Maybe he won the Hart. But he's won multiple Stanley Cups.
He won the Hart in 2016.
Okay, did he won the Hart? Yeah. So,
but he's never hit 50
in 10 years. No, never hit 50 in 10 years. I'm wondering if people will be like Matthews or Kane. Who's the better American? Because goal scoring, it's funny, Frank, we look at it, I still think, and that's why I brought up 50, is people look at goals and they value them more.
You should. It's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you value goals more? It's the hardest thing in the game to do.
But if you're like, look at Chris Kreider's year. right? Like Chris Kreider, he's got a chance to score 50, but he's not even going to have 25 assists, right? So where does, that's, you have a guy like McDavid, or McDavid's maybe a bad example, Johnny Gaudreau, Jonathan Huberdeau. They're going to join the 100-point club this season, become the 112th and 113th players to score 100. And then you look at Kreider's season. Would you say that Kreider had a better year, or Gaudreau and Huberdeau had a better year?
Just watching them play, I would say Gaudreau and Huberdeau had a better year.
Yeah. And then, but Kreider could join that 50, 50 goal club. And I think, it's a remarkable season what he's had, but he kind of looks like a guy who's going to have that ultimate career year.
Yep. Yeah. I wonder how repeatable it is for Chris Kreider.
What was his
That's
career
my big
high?
question. He's
29?
got 20, he's 30. He turns 31 actually later this month. He has 24 power play goals.
Yeah.
League leading 24 power play goals. That's a ton.
Oh,
His previous career high was 11, and that was last year.
Well, you know who he reminds me of this season? He's looking like Tim Kerr and Dave Andreychuk, just crushing it around the net, in tight.
It's Tim Kerr, by the way. We talked about Hall of Fame. I think that guy has a sneaky, decent Hall of Fame resume that no one has ever talked about. I would talk about 50 goal seasons, four straight 50 plus.
Yeah.
54, 54, 58, 58. And 1 year he had 34 power play goals.
Yeah.
He led the league in power play goals for 3 straight seasons. He doesn't have the individual hardware. His career was cut short, 655 games, tons of injuries, but 54, 54, 58, 58. And then 2 seasons later, after only playing 8 games, hit 48 in 69 games.
Oh, buddy, he could score, man. That was
he was the most dominant winger, power forward in the game for a 5-year stretch. Does that count for something?
It should put him in the conversation, right? But you're right. He gets overlooked a lot. But if you look at kind of the peak of his career, man, he was pretty dynamic. There's no question about it.
So he has as many points in 75 less games than Cam Neely, who's in. And Cam Neely had 3 50-goal seasons. Tim Kerr had 4 straight. That's his poster child for getting in, is if Cam Neely's in, then why isn't Tim Kerr? And you can't even make the argument that he played on really good Boston teams. Like the Flyers went to the final how many times with Tim Kerr?
Twice. Lost the orders.
I think they went 3 times.
Well, 85 and 87.
Right?
Yeah. That was it with him. Because then they went with Lindros again in the 90s, but he wasn't on that team.
They went in 80, right? He just missed that.
Yeah. I don't think he was there that time. When they lost to the Islanders?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, Frank, he's one of only 10 players in NHL history to have scored 58 goals twice.
Crazy.
And
anyway, just a total rabbit hole.
No, I like it. That's random.
And I was like, that's a Hall of Fame argument I would love to make.
Ooh, buddy, get on it. Somebody has to present. That's what I've learned about the Hall of Fame, of course. Somebody has to present your case for you to the committee. So, Frank, you should be the hype man for Tim Kerr. You got to get it out there, honestly.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, I like it. Let's bring in the hype man on the show and for betting, Tyler Yaremchuk. Ty, how you doing?
I like that intro. I like that intro a lot. I'm doing fantastic. Time for another edition of Buy or Sell, delivered by our friends over at DoorDash. Promo code RundownDD gets you 25% off and no delivery fees on your first order. I want to start with this actually quickly. You guys are talking about goal scorers, and how about the greatest goal scorer of all time? We should send some love Mike Bossy's way, battling lung cancer right now. I saw there were a couple media members asking to say a prayer for Bossy and the Bossy family. So sending our best to Mike Bossy and his family as he battles lung cancer. I want to start with some more of that 50 goal talk, and actually I want to elevate it a little bit. Are you buying or selling on either Draisaitl or Matthews getting to 60? And you know what? I'll even throw in, would you buy on McDavid potentially getting 50 this year? Buying or selling on McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews getting to 60 and 50 respectively. Frank?
I am buying on Matthews, selling on Draisaitl, and selling on McDavid.
Okay. I think Matthews has a shot too, just because he's got that one extra game left, right? And I mean, he's clearly capable of going on.
He's on pace for 62.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah. As I mentioned, outlined, he's 12 in his last 12. Draisaitl's 12 in his last 12. McDavid's 11 in his last 13.
Wow.
I will buy on Matthews, and I'm going to buy on McDavid. McDavid's on such a heater right now, guys. He's got 18 multiple point games in his last 23. Like, he is just shredding the league right now. And I think Draisaitl's going to fit. Draisaitl's going to be, he's going to join Tim Kerr in the 58 goal club.
Fair enough. There's a lot of times too with McDavid where he'll score and it kind of doesn't really look like he cares very much. Over this last run where he scored in 4 straight games, it looks like he's fired up. And that's either a guy who is fired up to be in a playoff push, or he's sitting there and it's in his head that he thinks there's a shot he can get to 50. I wouldn't doubt McDavid at all. Number 2, moving far away from the playoff race. How about the little run that the Buffalo Sabres have been on since March 1st?
Killing me, Smalls.
Since March 1st, they are 10th in the NHL in points percentage, and that's a 16-game stretch. Like, they're playing some good hockey. Is this a late season push, or is this showing that the Sabres might actually have a good core coming together in Buffalo? Are you buying or selling this late game push from the Sabres, Jason?
That's a really good question. I'll buy that they are improved and they're healthy, but they got a long ways to go to be a competitive team in the Eastern Conference over a calendar year. Like, the top 8, man, like, who's falling out? Look how
They're
good they are.
30 points back.
Yeah. So they're making progress, but I need to, there's a few bad teams that did it for years where March and April, they're going to take a step, and then they start the next season.
The Oilers thing forever.
5-16-1. Actually, Frank, I can tell you, the Oilers was a death march many years down the stretch. Like, you go back to 13, they won.
That's not true every year.
There was the one year, remember when Yakupov scored like 12 goals in 8 games?
Yeah, like the Todd
like,
Nelson year was a good one too, wasn't it?
I think they had 2.
But so, you know what's funny about that, Ty? It's funny how our memory, the year the Oilers won Yakupov, and he actually scored 6 goals in the last 3 games to get to 17. Go. But and keep in mind, that was the shortened season. So at the 3/4 mark of the year, 36 games, the Oilers were 1 point out of the playoffs. Then they went 1-9 and absolutely got crushed. But then they won their last 2 games of the season, and Yakupov scored 5 goals in those 2 games. And everyone's like, he's going to be the greatest new scorer in the league. And I was just like, oh my goodness, not even close. Like, there's years, Frank, where the Oilers, the one year, I think they won one of their, or something, like they went a stretch where they won 1 of 21 games. Like, there was a lot of pain down the stretch for the Oilers. That's why they always were finishing near the top, because they sucked down the stretch.
All right. Frank, you buying or selling this little late season run from the Sabres, or is it just a late season mirage?
So you heard me groaning because before the season started, I took the Sabres under 67 points. And this run has like it was also my biggest bet of the year. I did not make a bigger bet preseason. And my thought process was, they didn't get there last year and they traded away Jack Eichel. How could they possibly be better this year? Yeah. So I thought it was sound reasoning. And I think what this team has shown, first off, Alex Tuch is a really good player. He's made everyone better around him, which is hard to say and hard to do. That was a pretty underrated, like we talked about the return and we were like, for Jack Eichel, like that's all they got. Like, Tuch he's been pretty darn good, and he loves it in Buffalo, which is even more important. Being a Western New York kid, you have to want to play there, and he does. So that's a key part. But I think what we've learned more than anything, instead of about this team potentially being good next year, what we've learned is this team doesn't quit. Even Sunday's game against the Panthers, they were down big early. Mm-hmm. They make it a 5-3 game at the end. Like, third period actually kind of got interesting. Like, that was against arguably the top team in the league or in the top handful. and they didn't roll over in an April game when they easily could have. 30 points back of 8th seed. I think that says a lot about Don Granato as a coach. I think it says a lot about the group that they have. Certain guys have been able to revive their careers. Kyle Okposo, I mean, that's been one of the great stories of the year. Like, that guy seemed like he was done. And he had so many health concerns and injuries. Like, 41 points, he's going to hit 20 goals. Like, that guy, he hit 13 last year, 19 2 seasons ago. Like, it's I'm not buying on the Sabres, but I'm buying on what they have going mojo wise.
How about Jeff Skinner as well? In his last 112 games before this season, he had 21 goals. He's popped home 28 and 68 this season. What a bounce back.
Crazy. Still not worth the contract.
Steal of a contract.
Yeah.
Steal
Bargain bin stuff. Number 3, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I have my top 3 in terms of power rankings in the NHL right now, who I believe are the 3 best teams in the league right now. I'll give them to you. You let me know if you're selling on any of them and if you'd buy on someone who's outside of my top 3. I have Panthers at 1. They're the first team to clinch a playoff spot in the East. 2, I have Colorado. And 3, I'm going with Minnesota. Jason, selling on one of those, and who would you swap in?
I'm taking the Panthers for sure. Ahead of Minnesota all day long.
Yeah,
like,
I
like
go Panthers 1, Avs 2, Wild 3. In that order.
No, I would go Panthers, Avs, and third best team right now. Well, the third best team right now, the way they're playing, I'll go Boston Bruins. They got a 783 points percentage in their last 20. Like, if you look, and the reason I know that is because I was looking at what the Oilers are under Jay Woodcroft. And the Edmonton Oilers under Jay Woodcroft actually have the 4th best points percentage in the NHL. Yeah. Right? But the Bruins are 1, the Panthers, Avs, who have been good all year. I know Minnesota's on this great run lately for sure, but they're still only in their last 26 games, they're still only 13th in points percentage. So I don't have them in my top 3.
I told you guys about that stat a few weeks ago, right? Score adjusted Fenwick in terms of gambling and being a predictor in terms of who gets to the Stanley Cup final.
Okay.
The Bruins are right there, man. Do not be surprised if they're a team that gets in the playoffs and causes a big stir with an upset. They're not in my top 3 though. I would go Avs 1, Florida 2, and I'd go Carolina 3.
Ooh, Carolina 3. All right. So both of you selling on
Carolina.
The
Get no love. No one likes Carolina.
I like them. I don't know if I love them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I come out on them as well. Like, I do think they're good, and they'll win a playoff round because, I mean, they could very well get Washington in the first round. That should be a pretty easy matchup for whoever gets the Caps. But I'm just not sure if I love Carolina the same way I look at Florida, and I'm like, damn, that's a wagon of a hockey team.
I'll put it out this way.
I think there's a clear delineation between it's Florida and Colorado in one category, and then it's sort of like everyone else in the next tier down. Does that make any sense?
I'll still put Tampa in there. Here's the way I look at Carolina, guys. You know, it's the new trend.
How do we not say Tampa? That is a total error in judgment.
Okay, but since March 1st, Tampa Bay is like 16th or something in points percentage. Like, they haven't been great recently.
Here's the thing.
But I know they're still Tampa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the way I look at it, guys. You see one of the new trends. Everybody's into brown suits right now, right? That's like the new color. If you watch it, see it everywhere, brown suits. I'll say this about the brown suit. The brown suit, like Carolina, yeah, it looks good, but are you pulling it out of your closet when you're wearing your favorite suit? It's rare for the brown to be your number 1 suit. It can look nice, it's trendy, but is it the top one?
Whereas Tampa Bay is maybe just your classic black suit, right?
Whew.
They're going to come
black
through
suit,
for
white
you.
shirt, buddy. Can't go wrong. You're like, any day I want to look good, I just go with the Ray Donovan. It's a win.
Hey, I had a brown suit once, and I wore it on air, and I had my boss call me after. He goes, "Hey, you like that suit?" Yep. Like, don't ever wear it again. Okay. Never wore it again.
All right, let's wrap it up with our PointsBet bonus question. And today is a big day for our friends at PointsBet Canada because sports betting is live and legal in Ontario, the first Canadian province to
Welcome
really sort
to
of
2022, Ontario. Jeez.
Yeah,
Alberta's not there yet, so
they're the first ones to open it up to sort of the third party market, if you will, because Alberta has the government regulated side and nothing else. But Ontario is roaring and ready to go, and PointsBet is roaring and ready to go. So head over to PointsBet Canada. I have a link right now on our Twitter. We have one up at Daily Faceoff as well. If you hit that link, there's a little welcome bonus for you. So sports bettors in Ontario, it is a good day to be you, and it's a good day for our friends at PointsBet Canada.
Hey,
it's
Ty,
also,
sorry to interrupt. What is the line today on the Leafs to win the playoffs? Because Mark, that'll probably be the biggest single bet in Ontario today on PointsBet.
Oh, I guarantee you will be. The Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup on PointsBet are plus 1,200, 12-1.
Oh, mark it down, Leafs fans are going crazy today, Frankie. Their PointsBet's just like, ka-ching, why not?
I put exactly $19.67 on the Leafs to win the cup before the year started. I was thinking I had a cash out offer today for $11. I was thinking about taking it.
Hey, a couple coffees, right? All right. It's also a good week for this to happen. It's a big betting week with the Masters coming up. So I always love getting your guys' take on other sporting events. So the Masters, the top 5, John Rahm is the odds-on favorite, plus 1,100. You got Justin Thomas, who is my boy, at plus 1,400. Cameron Smith, 1,600. Dustin Johnson and Scotty Scheffler round out the top 5. Top Canadian is Corey Connors at 61, 60-1. And Tiger Woods is kicking around at 80-1. So let me just throw this out there for your PointsBet question. Give me a Masters pick. I want someone to bet on.
Well, definitely not Woods. Scotty Scheffler is on fire. Lately. I was watching the match play. Was a little bit hungover on the Sunday, one of the rare times in a long time after COVID had an outbreak. So why not? But so I will go with Scheffler. But if you can bet for Corey Connors to finish top 5, I'm doing that too.
Frank,
I am going Dustin Johnson. DJ has owned that course.
Fair. Yeah.
Recently, he's been like, if you look at the last, however, 20 rounds played at the Masters, like how many guys have a better total than low score than Dustin Johnson? I can't imagine it's very many. Hey,
what's Kisner's odds right now, Ty?
Kisner's odds. He's outside of the top 10. No, he's way down there. He's 200-1.
Dude, I'm putting some on him. That guy's on fire lately. So
Kisner action.
He's also my favorite character on the tour.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
I love Masters Week. I shouldn't say this with the president of hockey content on the show, but I will be not very productive down the stretch of this weekend once the Masters comes on, and I love it.
Just another day that ends in Y.
All right, that's going to do it for another edition of Buy or Sell. Once again, shout out to PointsBet Canada. They are live in Ontario. Head over to our Twitter, and we got a link up there. And shout out to our friends at DoorDash.
That's a funny bet, $19.67, Frank. Whoever gave you that
I mean,
idea,
if you're not having fun, like why do it?
Why not? Why not? What did it pay out?
It was 19. Let's see. Active bets. Toronto Maple Leafs, $19.67 to win $216.37.
All right, like 10-1, give or take. So
yeah,
that's all right.
Like, not bad. I think it's 12-1.
So how many bets did you make at the start of the year, and how many have you cashed out?
I made a bunch to start the year that have only a couple have cashed out. Kings over 85 and Kraken under 93, which was like stealing money.
Yeah, that was the line of the year. I didn't understand it. You guys even got me. I'm not a big bettor. But I put when I saw that line, I put $100 on it. I was like, I thought that was the easiest bet of the year.
So I've got a few juicy ones outstanding. Okay, you tell me if I'm going to get there or not. Oilers over 98 points.
Whew, man, you know what's funny, Frank? 2 weeks ago, I had the playoff cut line in the West at 95 points. I thought that was pretty realistic. But you look at it now, like it's closer to 97. So the Oilers, they would need 13 points in their final 12 games. So all they got to do is go 7-5, right? As I mentioned, since Jay Woodcroft took over, Frank, the Oilers are 17-7-2. They got the 4th best points percentage in the National Hockey League. They got they're tied with Boston for the most points, but that's because they played a few more games than other teams. I know everybody's talked about, well, they got a harder schedule. Yeah, but they've played good teams. Like the Oilers, despite the thing about the Oilers is they have those games where they get absolutely destroyed, like they did against Calgary. But for a lot of the other games, the Oilers have actually been quite good since Woodcroft took over. And you got the two most dynamic offensive players in the game on heaters right now. So yeah, Frank, I would, if you could up that bet right now, I would actually take over on 98. I know you can't,
but would you? What you think? You think I'm going to get there? Yes or no?
Yes, I think they'll get that. So they need 14 more points, right?
Okay,
got to get to 99.
Austin Matthews winning the Rocket. We talked about that. Carolina Hurricanes over 96. That looks pretty good.
Buddy.
Oh wait, they already hit it. Actually,
they already are.
Sorry.
It's money in the bank.
Yeah. Okay, so that didn't cash yet. So Sabres under 67. That's not looking good.
No, the Sabres, buddy, they're on fire right now.
They're still on for a season-long pace. They're still only on pace for 69.
Yeah, but
which is crazy.
So they need 7 points in their last 12 games. So
6. Yeah, 6 points.
But don't they have to get? Oh no, sorry, under
6. Yeah, 6 points in their last 12 games is not happening.
Yeah, no, you're done.
They're their next games though, Frank. Their next 5: Carolina, Florida, Tampa, Toronto. Whew.
So you're saying there's a chance. So I had Darcy Kemper to win the Vezina. That's not going to happen.
No.
The Jets to win the Central. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
The Canes to win the Metro. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good odds. What are they up? They're 4 points up with a game in hand. So
they were 5-1. I had 20 bones on that to win 100.
All right.
McDavid to win the Art Ross.
Yeah, I think that's happening. The only guy who can catch him is his teammate.
Jets over 92.5, which is not happening.
Not happening.
They're on pace for, I think, 89, which is, it sounds funny because it's still 89 to 92. Like it's somewhat close.
Yeah, it's close, but yeah, they need 17 because they got to get over. So they need 17 points, Frank, and
they still have 100 possible points that they can hit.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
No.
And this one is also going to be really close. Canucks over 88.
What are they at? So they need 15 points in 12 games.
Yeah, and if you look at their record since Boudreau took over, it's
but they got to go. So they got to go 7-4-1.
They've been way better than that under Boudreau. 7-4-1. I think. I can tell you for sure.
Haven't they? Like, what did he get hired? November 6th or something?
It was December 4th, I think.
Oh, sorry, that was Vigneault got fired. Okay. December 4th. Well, if you look at
his first game was December 6th. They were 9-15-2, and now they're 32-28. So they went 20.
They're 24-14-3. 24-13-8. Sorry, 24-13-8.
Okay, so 24-13-8, and you said they need to go 7-4-1. Like they could do that. They should do that.
I'd have to look.
It's going to be really close. Anyway, it's a juicy one. And then McDavid over 125.
Yeah, I'll take that. He's on fire, man. As I mentioned, he's got and what's unique about McDavid is you look at his career numbers, Frank. At the end of the year when scoring goes down league wide, his production arguably goes up. March and April are his 2 most productive months of his career.
I wish this one would cash, although it won't. UC Saros to win the Vezina. I got him when he was 15-1. $50 pays $8.60.
Yeah. Well, what if Shesterkin continues to, because he's kind of in free fall mode here a little bit by his standards. But he's still got to fall a lot. So yeah, it's not happening.
And I made this last bet. You'll laugh at this. I made it on June 16th. Florida Panthers to win the cup. I only put $7 on it. They were 20-1.
All right.
I think it was like all I had left in my account at the time. I'm like, $7.
Hey, dude, that was my preseason pick, man. I'm sticking with the Cats, so we'll see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting week, Frank. Of course, in the NHL, but the one main playoff race Dallas, tough loss in Seattle last night, so that gives Vegas a little bit of breathing room. Vegas so far has taken care of business against the teams they should beat. We'll see if it can continue, but they might have to have a better chance to catch Nashville or Dallas the way the Kings are playing. And I want to give a shout out to the LA Kings. Like the LA Kings, they go into Calgary, they win. They go into Winnipeg, they win. They get a point in Edmonton with a depleted defense core. They're missing 4 forwards in their bottom 6. I tell you, man, what the Kings continue to do to me is absolutely amazing. Like that, I thought, this trip might be tough on them. And they get 5 out of 6 points. The Kings, shout out to end on a positive note to the LA Kings, who just refuse to lose right now. It's huge for them.
They're grinding like the Buffalo Sabres.
Grinding right into Frank's pocketbook.
Oh, well.
Frank, have a good
honestly,
week.
it felt like a good one to start. Under 67. Damn.
Geez, you're loving this. The 67 was your theme this year.
Apparently so.
Buffalo and Toronto.
Yeah.
Will either pay out? Probably not. Have a great week, Frank. Talk to you on Friday.